Welcome back after the break. Now I want to continue looking at some questions that you can expect in your final geography paper, and especially when we look at economic geography. And the questions that they might use is using instances of graphs. Now what is a graph? A graph represents information. Now if you look at this graph over here, you've got a horizontal axis and you've got a vertical axis. That's your vertical axis over there, and that's your horizontal axis over there. Now what they show you, the information that's being presented over to you, they show you percentage on the vertical axis, and on the horizontal axis they show you the different activities. And as you can see, there's manufacturing, finance, government services, trade and transport, mining, agriculture, electricity, construction, other producers, and community. Now the keys that's being used for the bar graph itself is used in two different colors, as you can see. The dark gray color that represents 1995, and the light gray represents 2002. So immediately, as you can see, that will represent 95, and the light grey table will represent 2002, the bar graph. Now let's just quickly look at the questions. Now, what do the letters GDP stand for? Now once again, grade 12, please go back to the concepts in the previous lesson. It stands for Gross Domestic Product. Now which industries contributes the most to the GDP? Now this graph represents all the industries that presents the gross domestic product. Now as you can see, this is all the industries. Manufacturing, the secondary activities, finance, tertiary activities, etc., etc. And there's the percentage on the vertical axis showing how much they have contributed to South Africa's GDP. Now if we look at it, if we look at the question again, which one contributes the most to the GDP? And as you can see over there, definitely manufacturing by 21.2% during 1995, and 2002, 20.2%. So the correct answer for the answer that's in your booklet is going to be manufacturing. And GDP stands for Gross Domestic Product. Okay. Now the next question, to what economic activity does mining and agriculture belong to? Now that's extracting raw materials is mining, and agriculture is farming. What type of activity is that? Definitely primary activities. If you look at question number 4, mining and agriculture contributes less to the GDP than manufacturing, which is a secondary activity. Explain the reason for this observation. Now if you quickly go back to your graph, you can see this is where manufacturing are, producing the most of the GDP of the country, and there's agriculture and mining. Agriculture actually produced less than mining. The reason for it is because what do we do with mining? Manufacturing is we're processing it. So this raw material that's being mined, what do? We export it. So we actually sell it for less. We sell the products when it's manufactured for more. And with agriculture, the processed goods, same thing. What we do with the agricultural products is we export it and we do not process most of it. And that's the reason why secondary activities contributes more to the GDP. Now, if you look at the contribution of transport to the GDP, increased from 1995 to 2002. give a reason for your answer. Now let's just quickly have a look at transport over here. As you can see, there's quite a significant difference between the two of them. In 1995, it was 8.9, and in 2002, it has increased to 11.7. Now the reason why, and let's just quickly go back to the question, the contribution of transport to the GDP increased from 1995 to 2002. Give a possible reason for your answer. Now basically because the government spent more money on transport routes and infrastructure. Now spending more money on transport routes and infrastructure promotes secondary activities and primary economic activities, and it means that these companies can make more money, they have easier access to the raw materials, and then they can process these raw materials much quicker. And that means that the private sector can even sell their products even faster. Now, our next type of graph is a pie chart. Now, once again, a pie chart is very similar to a bar graph. It represents information to it. And over here, what they've done is they show the contribution of the different provinces to the national GDP. Now, can you remember our 4 industrial development areas? It was Gauteng, Durban Pinetown, Southwestern Cape, and Port Elizabeth Uitenhage. Now, just quickly have a look at this over here. Gauteng, by far, the biggest contributor to the GDP, which follows is the KwaZulu-Natal area. Now, keep in mind, what do we have in Gauteng? The PWV district over here, the Durban Pinetown area. And if you look at just quickly look at the Western Cape, third biggest, that's the Southwestern Cape industrial area. And then we've got the Eastern Cape that follows in fourth as your PE Uitenhage industrial area. Now let's quickly look at the questions that you might can expect in your final exam paper. Rank the top 3 provinces in terms of their contribution to the GDP from largest to the smallest. In this case, if you quickly look at the answers over there, let's go back to the pie chart. Gauteng ranked number 1, KwaZulu-Natal ranked number 2, Southwestern Cape ranked number 3, and PE Uitenhage number 4. Okay, give 2 reasons why the province ranked first in your answer in question 1 holds that position. Now, if we discussed it previously, it's because Gauteng has the most industries. We looked at the PWV, if you go back to it, if you look at Gauteng, PWV, it's got the most industries, it's got many unskilled and skilled labor force, a lot of transport routes connected over there, and many private investors situated in Gauteng. And believe it or not, even though Gauteng is the smallest province, it's got the biggest population in Southern Africa. If you look at our next question quickly, the following questions refer to the province which contributes the least to your national GDP. Name the province which contributes the least to your national GDP. Let's quickly go and have a look at the pie chart. As you can see, Free State 5.5, Northwest 6.3, Mpumalanga 6.8, Limpopo 6.7, and there's a province that contributes less than all the other provinces, only 2.2%. So the answer to that question, number A, is Northern Cape. Now, what they've done over here, integration of different sections. If you name the ocean current that flows alongside this province, now if you look at the Northern Cape where it's situated, they've got a coastline, and the ocean current that flows past it is the called Benguela current. Now the question over here, what impact does this ocean current have on the rainfall in this province? Now we've discussed it in our previous lesson. The cold Benguela current creates cool and dry conditions. So this makes this important, it lacks rainfall. If you look at KwaZulu-Natal, the ocean current that flows next to the coastline over there is the warm Mozambique current, and it creates warm, moist conditions that can create more rainfall over there. Now, if you look at D, explain how your answer in question C affects the province contribution to the GDP. Basically, like I've mentioned in this question, there's going to be less rainfall. So it means people in the Northern Cape province won't have fertile soil to farm, and they won't have arable land to farm because it means there's not enough rainfall, so they can't grow any crops. So basically in today's lesson, we finished off with economic geography. We look at the importance of the secondary activities. As you can see, Grade 12s, very importantly that we need to focus more on manufacturing and processing of our raw materials, because the country can earn more money through secondary activities than in just primary activities, just shipping off our products to different countries and eventually buying them back for a greater price. We looked at their different industrial development areas. As you can remember, we look at PWV, Durban Pinetown, Southwestern Cape, and Port Elizabeth, Uitenhage. Very important areas for us, creates a lot of employment opportunities for the population of the country. We looked at tertiary activities, services that's been provided, and lastly, we looked at informal settlements. Now, we looked at informal settlements as quite a big sector in South Africa. Unfortunately, the trading taking place, they don't add to the GDP of our country because they're not paying tax, but we can come up with solutions by helping these people moving from the informal sector to the formal sector. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the episode. See you next time around.